Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of The Testing Peers. Tonight, we're going to be talking about tools for testers, and we'll go into the details of that later on. But first of all, let's introduce the awesome foursome. So today we have Tara Walton.
Hello.
We have Chris Armstrong.
Hola.
And we have Russell Cruxford.
Good day.
And myself, David Maynard. Hello.
And now we're really pleased to be sponsored by Enfocus. Enfocus are a UK-based software testing company. They've been supporting businesses for 24 years by providing services that include burst resource, accelerated test automation, performance testing, and fully managed testing services. In 2021, they launched a test automation academy to create amazing testers. And so far, they've created jobs for 48 people in our industry in just under 3 years. Well done, Enfocus. If you want to get in touch, please go to their website at enfocus.co.uk, or you can email them at info@enfocus.co.uk.
And as is normal for our podcast, we will start off with some banter. So Tara, take it away.
I thought the podcast was mostly banter, but just a question for you guys as we approach the holiday season. What is your go-to holiday movie? Not everybody at once now. There's a lot of thinking faces going on.
For once, I can answer this early rather than late, which is unusual. So It's a Wonderful Life, I guess, is my kind of go-to. I generally always watch that at Christmas. I go to the cinema and watch it most years. It's just part of the experience of Christmas for me. Yeah, it's a lovely, depressing, non-depressing film.
So for me, one of my favourites, again, it's a bit of controversial as to whether it's a holiday movie, is Die Hard.
Absolutely.
And I say Russell's shaking his head, podcast gold. It happens on Christmas Eve, so it's bound to be a Christmas film.
I have a rule. If I am forced to listen to Christmas music in it, it is a Christmas film.
There we go. I'm sure it has a Christmas song in it.
Does not start with like Jingle Bell Rock or something?
He's shopping for Christmas, isn't it? For his son.
I think it's allowed. It's allowed. It's fine. As long as my brain can remember, probably I would choose something like Home Alone. It's not really a good movie, but I love it. It brings back happy, warm memories and slapstick comedy, and my kids are into it. Although I'm yet to convince my eldest that Home Alone's 3, 4, 5, and now 6 should never be watched because they're not good. But in terms of more recent stuff, I quite enjoyed the Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds Spirited, the musical one. That was quite a lot of fun.
I did not know that those Home Alones existed.
You are very lucky. Never watch them. Never seek them out. They don't exist.
Now, I'm a little curious, but I didn't like the first ones.
Whoa.
Well, I know, very, very controversial.
Well, this might be the last episode we have with you now.
Or this might just all be about that. Let's skip the topic. Let's stop talking tools. Let's just talk about what is going on with that.
Obviously, we've hit a point of contention here. I absolutely love the old Grinch movie, the animated one. That is my go-to. But for something a little bit more new, Violent Night with David Harbour is everything an action movie / Christmas movie should be.
Fantastic. And check those out. So let's go on to tools for testers. Who wants to kick us off? Chris.
I will, because I'm to blame for many things, but in this case, this topic. So I've been thinking a lot about. We've talked about decision making and those sorts of things before, but as testers, we use a hell of a lot of different tools. Whether they were designed for testers, whether they're just everyday life hacks, whether they're things that, as lowly, untechnical people should never be going near, but lo and behold, they're quite useful, and we do. And so as a result, I started thinking about toolkits and what sort of things we sort of carry with us, skills and things, whether they're things you list on your resume or put on job descriptions, or whether they're just tools that you pick up in your everyday life outside of work, if that's a real thing for you. Testing tools was the first thought we had about this topic, but actually they kind of spring to mind just tools that we use for our act of testing, whereas a lot of what we do transcends the world of just the act of testing, and so tools for testers I thought would be more interesting. And I was interested to sort of seeing what sort of tools people like, how you discover them, how you approach them as a tester, how you problem solve, how you use your very cynical and curious brain to sort of appraise these sorts of tools.
Well, are there any tools that you would say you cannot function without? Like, I have to have a screen recorder. I'm not terribly picky about which screen recorder, but I have to have one.
Does a computer count?
Computer completely.
I find it very useful for most of my stuff these days.
I could imagine how it would be difficult to not have one.
Well, it depends what you're testing. Business processes don't always require it, etc.
That's true. I did have one client that I did nothing but mobile testing for, so I just had a whole rack of various phones.
But then you usually would have a computer to write the results on or process the results and things.
That's very true.
You not have a tablet these days?
True. Especially if you need to be remote. Yeah.
I had 30 phones. They wouldn't buy me a tablet too.
Surely one of those phones should have been a sort of tablet or whatever they call them these days. Taking us down a bad alley, so I'll abort that one. Sorry, but it's sometimes just we forget some of the basic stuff. I guess is the point. And some of the tools is just pen and paper. To be quite frank, it is the ability to jot things down. I couldn't survive without post-it notes, just to write things down, ideas, moments, to-do lists, inspirations from discovering something to come back to. As Chris has just again showed us his post-it notes that are handily, readily. There's mine. Same sort of thing, multicolored, just for different things.
Oh, absolutely.
At the basic level, I'd say they're my go-to. Couldn't survive the world without. Then when it comes to technology, it does evolve a little bit, depending on what I'm doing.
The first thing that came to mind was Miro or a whiteboard or some collaborative tool, because we're not always in the same room. So post-it notes aren't always available, but some sort of collaborative tool is vitally important, I would say, for a good cohesion and understanding and sharing as well, if you're not in one particular space.
I'm quite happy that we've not just talked about software tools from the offset, because I do sort of think about things that we have. One physical thing that I'm quite keen on being able to use is a left-handed ergonomic mouse. If I'm stuck on just a touchpad for a while or on a hot desk and it's right-handed, I'm gonna be able to use it, but I'm gonna start feeling a bit broken after a short while. So having something that means I don't feel broken quite quickly is greatly appreciated.
I'm literally getting frustrated at the moment because my mouse keeps needing recharging because I keep forgetting to charge it overnight.
Is that the magic mouse?
It is the one that you can't use while it's charging, just to make life an awkward one. I like the idea of recording tools because that's quite like screen grabbers, things like that are kind of some of the obvious ones, but actually just recording, especially exploratory sessions. So in my world, it's QuickTime. That was my default just because it was built in free from Macs, a piece of cake. But yeah, those tools are quite good.
Actually, one tool that is quite useful now in Word is the dictation. Found that quite useful. So you can dictate into it and it comes up. And actually, most of the time, it's really quite good. And then you just need to edit it. So I've found that really, really useful at times.
I do use that more and more frequently. Not so much while I'm testing, but I do a lot of documentation work and presentations and educational content, and I use it all the time for that side of it.
Does anyone use any AI tools?
Yes, but mostly meeting recorders. They take my notes for me so I can actually write handwritten notes. Because if it comes down to that pen and paper moment of if I don't write it down and draw the line to connect thoughts and all of those tactile things, my brain doesn't also make the connections. So I can let it record and keep all of that transcript for me while I'm writing side thoughts of, oh yeah, I need to add that to the test case, or don't forget this, and all of my little notes.
But AI has been useful. It has generated lots of ideas. It has given me sort of hints and helps towards presentations and other stuff. I haven't used it for coding. Where I work kind of as a co-pilot type situation, it's kind of not allowed yet. And I don't really do much coding these days. But I can see how it can be an advantageous thing for that. It's not something I've used it for. I've used it more as a outside of work assistant, for want of a better word.
I would echo that. I've used Copilot and ChatGPT for various things, but nothing for coding. Again, it's quite useful to give you a starter, but I would edit it to make it a bit more human friendly, readable, and wouldn't do it verbatim.
I had an argument with ChatGPT today. So I'd fed it some data and I said, give me some key themes and patterns, which actually typically it does quite well. And then I said, oh, can you just replace American English to British English and give me a couple of additional sort of ideas on things, but keep the content the same. And it rewrote everything. It was more condensed and it was different. And so I said, well, that's not what I wanted, is it? And it said, oh, let me try again. And again, it just got worse and worse. The deeper down the rabbit hole it went, it couldn't pull itself back to where it wanted to. And it said, how's that feel? I was like, well, I'm not very pleased. It's one of those things that where like it isn't actually intelligent. Like it's got things that it can do, but and it can sometimes sound and feel like it's human, but actually in reality it isn't. And I found the same example in my talk with Hustef. I used an AI generated image of a sandcastle being consumed by waves. However, if you say, show me a picture of a sandcastle being consumed by waves, I can tell you that AI does not know what you're talking about. It took about 12 attempts.
You know, Chris, it's artificial intelligence. It's not real intelligence. Yeah.
But you see, the world is telling me that this is going to replace humans and take all of our jobs away, Russell. So I was like, well, I need a picture. Do me a picture like this. And it just couldn't do it. I had to like reframe and rephrase the prompt so many times where you're saying, there is a picture of this thing. Waves are coming around, they are wrapping around it. And it's like, oh man, I could have drawn this picture by now.
I was going to say you could have drawn it quicker than got paint out.
And that's got nothing to do with code or production code or anything useful. No.
Not even a very good artist, but at that point, no. And I think when it comes to a lot of tools, there is that an expected learning curve, right? And so I like to find the tools that I can actually learn to use in, say, a given trial, rather than the ones that I'm like, I tried it once, I was so frustrated, or I just don't have time and I can't figure it out. And for me, prompts, particularly for artwork, is I have it in my head. How do I make them have the picture in my head too? And it just doesn't work out very well.
Do any of you use these sort of accessibility tools? So like screen readers, Zoom functions, things like that from applications. I don't, but obviously a lot of people I work with do as part of the day job. It's kind of one of the things for accessibility testing is kind of using the tools that are actually people are going to use in real life. It's something I've fiddled with briefly, but never used much. But I think it is a really cool thing to do, actually, to walk through it through someone else's eyes, so to speak, or ears, or whatever other mechanism.
I do use a screen reader quite a lot. It started off as an easy, I really need to be working on monitor 1, but I really want to read this thing on monitor 2. So I let it screen read to me. And the more I used it, the more I've become really passionate about accessibility, because when it doesn't work, oh man, it's an awful experience.
And there's some things that I know the tools that you get into your browser extensions like Axe and Wave and other things, which quite often do sort of some automated accessibility testing. It doesn't tell you that experience of navigating through things and how screen readers will grab them and present them. It takes some of the other lower level stuff off. But there's lots of tools like that assist you testing. But like most things, like even automation, it's not one solution that solves everything, is there?
So hang on a second now. I've been told by more than one salesperson that their tool can meet all of my testing
One
needs.
tool to rule them all.
And I'm sure that's true. Same way that AI, you've also believed that it can solve all your problems.
I believe every bit of snake oil that is fed to me, there are silver bullets aplenty.
There is just a magazine case of them, isn't there?
A nice chance to segue. Like, what are the things you kind of are massively turned off by when you're looking for tools and you are confronted with language? What sort of things really turn you off?
That you hit one already. You do everything 100% or
Yeah.
perfect or
Yeah.
anything over promises.
Well, anything because the nature of our business is so different. The fact that they don't know anything about our business, and they go, we will be able to fix all your problems. They haven't got a clue what our problems are. And that is a right red flag to me. It's just not a thing I want to go down. The other thing I think is, I think when you have salespeople in and they don't listen to what you want, you give them the context that you want it to, and they then go down a completely different path. And you go, no, 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 I don't want to do that. And they still go down that path. That is a
That's
big,
their script,
that's
David.
their script. Yes. How dare they go off it? And demonstrations, I'd far rather play with the tool and find my own mistakes rather than the shiny, this is how it works in demo world
Artificial land. Yeah.
and not in real life.
I echo everything you just said, David. And the one thing at the moment is the snake oil of being AI. It always got AI feature. It's like, so, oh, it can self-heal. Can it? Really? Those sorts of things. It's like there's lots of buzzwords that come with some of these tools about doing it to solve everything and all the rest of it. And actually, when you probe them, they use, oh no, it can only do it in this situation, do this sort of thing, and you can only do it like this. And you kind of get them to admit the fact that actually they're giving you bullshit, for want of a better word, or marketing spin. It's more probably politically correct. And
That's the red flag for me, is when most of the conversation or your website or whatever I'm looking at is 90% marketing buzzwords. I start to wonder if, like, do you know what your app, tool, whatever actually does? Because you've hit all the SEO targets, but
yeah, you're not selling it to me, are you? Yeah.
I think the problem at the moment, talking about AI, is the fact that they're all trying to cram AI in, and AI is such a broad field. So even if there's a small part of AI, it's not going to solve your problems. It's not going to fix it. They're using it again, like we said, buzzwords. They're trying to get on the bandwagon that we're a useful tool, we're using AI and we're cutting edge, but actually it's just a marketing feature because everyone else is on it.
there are some AI tools that are really fantastic though, right? Predictive tech. I've typed this phrase 1,000 times. It's going to tell me this is what comes next. All of the linters that we use when you're coding, things like that. When they do one thing and they do it really well, I think that goes with any tool that I use. I don't need it to do everything. I need it to do the one thing I got it for, and I need it to do that really well.
Oh, you've just hit me on another rant. This idea that one tool can do everything, and this concept that, oh, we bought this tool, and the classic one I hear of is like Microsoft and Teams. It's like, well, we've got Outlook, we've got this Word, so it comes with Teams. So therefore, Teams is the best. Everyone should use Teams. Is Teams the best? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. That's a different conversation. But it's this assumption that because it comes bundled in something you're already paying for, therefore you should use it. And I get there's some economies there, but I also think that the right tool for the right problem, fudging something because you already pay for it or pay for something else that gives it free, is often a bad choice. It doesn't mean it's not right at times. Sometimes there's some good bundled products, but it doesn't automatically default that because it does it, everything's great. It gets rid of some bureaucracy in most companies of like approvals and other changes. But again, it doesn't mean it's right. You know, you might want securities, therefore you've got the tool in secure, that gives you that tick already. But again, it doesn't mean it's the right tool. It may give it a leg up against a competitor, but again, it doesn't mean it's the right tool.
As you say, in bundles, you often get the thing that no one else wants to buy, and so therefore they just sort of slip it in as a free gift. I'm not saying that Teams is like that, but
Access, Microsoft Access.
but just because it's there doesn't mean to say it's right. And actually, it may well be unworkable because of the context that you're using it in and the needs of the company or you as an individual.
You've just triggered me on some sort of post-traumatic stress over preferred suppliers lists and how tools would be chosen for you just because once upon a time a tool was sold by a company and therefore they'd gone through the bureaucracy, the process of being a supplier that the company have approved, which means it's such a painful process to get a new tool approved by a board, go through the security screening, doing the demos and the POCs. They're like, it's just easier, guys, if we just go for this tool instead. These people make it, and you're like, oh.
Oh, but it's awful.
I've done that. often it's because of timelines. You need it tomorrow. Therefore, what's the quickest
Yeah.
way to get it tomorrow? And that's utilize things. If it's about getting the right tool for the right job, then it's generally never to just accept it. But I can certainly say that I have said, well, we've got X vendor for this already. They've got this. Well, it's an add-on to the already service. That's the quick win. Do it. And then if we want to look at other things, let's do it.
Mhm.
But let's just get going with something. And we've never gone and looked elsewhere. It's not worth the effort. Or
Wow. Once you've bought into a system, it's hard to pivot out of it.
sometimes it's just the fact everyone knows the bureaucracy you have to get a tool into your estate in some companies. So no one actually wants to face into it. Therefore, you've got something that's average, you'll take that. Or you've got something that's bad, you'll take that over nothing. Or the pain of getting a tool approved. And
We're
this,
currently going through one of our clients has decided to change their test case management tool from one to another. And so therefore we're going through the pain of transitioning and transferring all the data that we've got into the new tool. And there are various problems. I think we're almost at the end of the snagging list, but that's in the test system. So we've got the pain of the full transfer in a couple of weeks' time. That was fun.
Exciting.
So everyone light a
Exciting times.
candle, cross your fingers, whatever you
Yeah.
need to do for David.
So we've talked a lot about stuff that is kind of sucky about these things, but what about good experiences with testing? Have you ever been surprised by something or come across something and thought, I can use that for more than just what you've told me? I'm really excited.
I'm thinking of ones for you, Chris, if I'm honest with you. Metro Retro and things. Like when you get good whiteboard tools with templates and things like that in it that you can use for other things, it's a shortcut for other things that you weren't planning on using for it. There's often things like that you learn that actually, something that's just literally a blank piece of paper actually isn't just a blank piece of paper, and it can actually help you in many other ways. So that's a classic one for me. And I assume you're probably of a similar mind, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, like we mentioned whiteboarding and things like that before, things that fast track the ability to be able to visualize and interact with stuff. I've always found much easier. Like, oh, let's just create a Word document that we all share. No, stop. What are we actually doing? There's probably something else that we've already paid for that we can use that's going to be better than that. Maybe it's a whiteboarding tool. Maybe you've got something else that's better. I mean, there's also when you can bring to the table a tool that's free for people to be able to access and start using that's better than the paid for things. I mean, like, has anyone tried Microsoft Whiteboard? Woo!
Yes.
Don't. But there's like free tools out there, like our friends doing risk storming online. There's the pipeline game from Ethercode. There's folks who are making really useful tools that we can use for free.
Hmm.
And they can, I've had conversations with people and I've gone, look, it's better if I just show you. And you can sort of just get it on a screen, share it with them and run with it. And sometimes it's on a screen. Sometimes I've got a little notebook where I've made notes of heuristics and mnemonics and things. And I've just gone, look, here's a picture of a thing. I can use this now as a device to talk you through something. Like it's the beauty of heuristics. It's not just thoughts and processes. It can be like a model that we look at that we can then apply to your context rather than doing it explicitly. Like I hate tools with fixed workflows. Like I literally hate them with a passion when they don't align with the workflow in which we reside.
I love that there's these little niche things that we can all agree on that are just absolutely awful to experience, but so often it's what these tools thrive on, right? I cannot tell you how many times I've been using a tool and really wanted it to do something because that's the use case that I had in my head for it. And I've been told, well, it's because you're not using it right. But this is how testers work in the real world, not in theory. This is what we actually need to go through. And now this tool is useless to me.
So my one was a retrospective board designed specifically for retrospectives. Online, virtual, it's got a good looking UI. But when it comes to kind of progressing it to voting and other things like that, there's a button. But when someone clicks it, it doesn't update anybody else's. So they then click it. But it's only one directional, as in you can't go back a step. So if 2 people click it or 3 people click it, you get beyond the voting stage very quickly. And if you finish, it gets rid of the whole thing. So if you've got multiple people doing this and clicking on it, it very quickly goes, but there's no way to get back. So you kind of skip stages, and it's just so frustrating that I've been on 2 retrospectives using it. And both times people have clicked on it, not thinking someone else has clicked on it or wondering what it did. Those sorts of clicking type things, and it's just progressed it and blocked it accidentally because it's not updating real time to other people. So, it doesn't go, "Oh, this has been refreshed by other people." No, it just lets you continue doing it. But bad tools are frustrating.
I think tools that are not intuitive and are difficult to use are immensely frustrating. And I know we're getting away from the happy day scenarios that Chris is trying to get to because we're all going negative again.
I'm as to blame as anybody. I flip out on a sixpence like nobody's business.
But yeah, tools, like anything, if they're not intuitive and you have to fight them and it's going like walking through mud trying to get them to work, is a nightmare.
So I have to ask, how many of you have picked a tool that you were going to use simply because of their documentation and available support? Because I know I have.
I go even a step further where I'd say I've sometimes picked tools because I know people that work for those companies, and it's like I know that if something goes wrong or I need to have some support, I got their number. I can fast track these sorts of things so much quicker because I will literally call them up and say, "Mate, what's going on?"
I will call them personally. Some of them may or may not have been on this podcast.
Perhaps.
It's a good point. People come and go. I've not chosen tools because of the documentation, rather than I had therefore must have chosen other ones because of it, if you see what I mean. But definitely it plays a part in decision making because if it's got poor documentation, I can't adopt it easily, or I couldn't follow it, or I couldn't stand it up for a demo, or to play with it, fiddle with it quickly. In most cases, I've just gone, yeah, move on, next thing. I've got a short attention span, best of times. Positive things, though, go on. Like, I don't know when I was coding, where I'd be in the world without an IDE. Some of the extensions and plugins to it, the linting, I think you mentioned, Tara, just to kind of keep things consistent. I don't think, well, I've tried writing code in Notepad before. I would not advise it. And I've seen people do that for interviews. I would definitely not advise it.
When I first started coding, it was in Notepad. Yeah, when I first started coding, it was in Notepad. That was your option.
Dark mode as well. Tools bring in dark mode. My word, that was a game changer.
Selling point for Chris.
What, there's a time before dark mode?
There was a time when I used to have to turn the brightness down on my monitor so much because my eyes just hurt.
You've got to stop staring at pictures of me.
I know I do get very shocked these days when I open something that doesn't have a dark mode and I have that moment of, oh no, why is it so bright?
So I was going to ask, I think we might have covered it at the beginning. If you needed one tool, you could only live with one tool, what
Is
tool would it be?
physical or software?
Let's go physical because Russell just said computer again.
Well, I was going to say brain, actually, this time, just to be awkward.
Well, that's debatable, though, as to whose brain you want.
Don't want mine, if that helps.
A physical tool? I paid a lot of money for a very large whiteboard that sits opposite my desk. Like an actual real life whiteboard and dry erase markers. And I love every second of it.
I would go for post-it notes with a pen, obviously, to be able to write on them.
That's 2 tools, surely. It's those whiteboard and pens, to be fair.
I'm going to go with noise cancelling headphones. The ability to shut the world out of focus on things, to be mobile and not tied to my desk when I'm doing those sorts of things, especially in loud places. And that can be my own house with my kids. It can be on a train. It can be in an open office. The ability to be able to just sort of do that allows me to de-stress, to focus, to do all manner of different things that otherwise I wouldn't. Physically, I wouldn't be able to concentrate and actually do what I need to get done.
Being the awkward tester, a pen. I can figure out a medium to write on, my arm or something else. You don't need much, I guess, is the ultimate point.
Yeah.
As a minimum, but there's lots of more things that do make life easier and better. I said this on a call today, even at work, which is it's not the tools that make the difference, it's the people operating them. You can have the world's greatest tool sets for engineering and testing, but if you've got people that don't know how to use them or do the wrong things with them, they're not worth the money you pay for them. So the best tool is the person. always, and training them to use things and do things successfully, plus documentation, support. These are the crucial factors to me.
It's that old quote that always pops into my head when we talk about tools: is a fool with a tool is still a fool. Right? It's one
Very
of my
good.
favorites.
That's very good. I was going to say, do people listen to music whilst they're doing their work? And if so, what sort of music do you listen to? Do you listen to that sort of worky ambient music, or do you, Chris, listen to Euro trash?
No. I do. What you watch your words. So I do listen to music whilst I am working, but I make sure it's music that I wouldn't be singing along to. So I can't listen to Eurovision's greatest hits as a result. But oddly, I'm also not very good with sort of the atmospheric soundtracky type stuff whilst I'm working either, because I find those things control my mood too much. So actually, I end up listening to my brilliant new metal and friends playlist because I'm less likely to sing along to those things because I'm not a screamer. And so that music seems to I can read better when I've got that sort of music going on as well and concentrating. It's weird, my brain, that's how it works.
I will listen to different things depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. If I'm having a day where I'm just sitting down and writing documentation and I have to use all the words that are in my brain, I find those ambient type of things. But if I'm spending the day coding or trying to find a bug, I'm listening to things that I can dance and sing along to.
I'm a little bit like Tara then.
Got to turn the volume down when you got to focus, though.
Yeah, I love listening to music when trying to think. Often I'm in calls, so I can't not think. It depends. So it might be classic chill out music, it might be jazz, it might be Enya, it might be dance, proper house music, and so on. It depends on what I'm trying to do, whether I'm trying to pump myself up or whether I'm trying to like relax and just focus. It depends on what I'm trying to achieve, if that makes any sense. How about you, David?
I don't actually listen to anything. I don't. I just caught in the moment. Never
How
listen
do
to
you
music.
function?
I just get in the zone and just I don't listen to music. I don't get distracted. I think I'd get too distracted if I listened to anything.
Interesting. Yeah. When I worked in an office, I had to. I literally couldn't. I couldn't function without it. We've talked a lot about tools. We haven't actually gone into much automation tools, which I find a bit odd. But hey, another time perhaps we can talk about kind of the favorite tools for that. But yeah, it varies. So thank you for listening to us. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you to our special guest Tara.
Always happy to be here.
Nice to see you again, and nice to hear you if you're on the podcast. As always, thank you to everyone else that listens. Thank you. If you've got any feedback, you can reach out to us at testingpeers.com. Contact us at testingpeers.com. That'll be the one. Whoopsie. And you can kind of also find us on kind of our website, testingpeers.com. And you can find out about a conference that we've got going in March the 13th, the Testing Peers Conference, PeersCon 25. Again, that you can find that at testingpeerscon.com on the website. We are probably just close to call for papers, so we're hopefully putting together the agenda. We should be hopefully out in the new year 2025 for those listening back at different time periods. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful time, everyone.
For now, it's goodbye from the Testing Peers.
Goodbye.